Good evening, friends. It is so good to be with you for this in-person Christmas Eve service. We will hear from our choir singing live. Thank you all for all the efforts that you have taken to keep us all safe so that we could gather for this special night. It is good to be together. Happy Christmas, happy solstice, and all the blessings of the season to you all.
This reading is called A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clark Moore. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger on the side of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
They told me that when Jesus was born, a star appeared in the heavens above the place where the young child lay.
When I was very young, I had no trouble believing wondrous things. I believed in the star.
It was a wonderful miracle, part of a long ago story foretelling an uncommon life.
They told me a supernova appeared in the heavens in its dying burst of fire.
When I was older and believed in science and reason, I believed the story of the star explained.
But I found that I was unwilling to give up the star, fitting symbol for the birth of one whose uncommon life has been long remembered.
The star explained became the star understood. For Jesus, for Buddha, for Zarathustra.
Why not a star? Some bright star shines somewhere in the heavens each time a child is born.
Who knows what it may foretell?
Who knows what uncommon life may yet again unfold if we give it a chance.
And now the choir will lead us in an opening hymn. O come, all ye faithful, you are invited to hum along. With gusto. Let us rise in body or spirit for this one.
Our next reading is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 2. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. Upon these words, the Reverend Jan Richardson offers this reflection entitled, How the Light Comes. I cannot tell you how the light comes. What I know is that it is more ancient than imagining. Then it travels across an astounding expanse to reach us. That it loves searching out what is hidden, what is lost, what is forgotten, or in peril, or in pain. That it has a fondness for the body, for finding its way toward flesh, for tracing the edges of form, for shining forth through the eye, the hand, the heart. I cannot tell you how the light comes, but that it does, that it will, that it works its way into the deepest dark that enfolds you, though it may seem long ages in coming or arrive in a shape you did not foresee. And so, may we this day turn ourselves toward it. May we lift our faces to let it find us. May we bend our bodies to follow the arc it makes. May we open and open more and open still to the blessed light that comes.
A reading from the book of Luke, chapter 1, verses 39 to 42, followed by a reflection by Jan Richardson. In those days, Mary set out and went with haste to a Judean town in the hill country, where she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child leaped in her womb. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." For Joy, by Jan Richardson. You can prepare, but still it will come to you by surprise, crossing through your doorway, calling your name in greeting, turning like a child who quickens suddenly within you. It will astonish you how wide your heart will open in welcome for the joy that finds you so ready and still so unprepared.
I imagine that I'm not the only one who had to wipe away a tear at hearing our beautiful choir sing. And you know, they've been singing all last year. During the pandemic, they sang. And I have said many times that the pandemic required each choir member to become a soloist. And choir, am I right that most of you did not intend to become soloists? They had to record their naked track and then send it off to be mixed with the other tracks. And there's just something that feels, well, inhuman about that. And so for them to be able to come together and for us to have back our beloved Nell joining them, it just feels so magical. And all of that brought tears to my eyes. And you know, it takes a lot of people to make a service like this come together, and I'm going to forget people, but I know that Cuffy and Louise and Pat and Marilee were here decorating the sanctuary for us. This evening, people came and opened the windows and lit the candles, and Bill and Kathy were our very gentle bouncers at the door. If any of you were questioned as to your place on the list, all mistakes were mine, and I apologize. Am I forgiven? Phew. Thank you. But all that we have done, all that you have done all this time has made it possible for us to be together. Now, I imagine that many of you saw the piece in the Washington Post the other day, and the story has made the rounds about a woman who was down on her luck, and her neighbor saw this, and as he was putting up his Christmas lights, he had the idea that he would extend a string of lights from his house to hers so that she would know that she was not alone. And pretty soon the other neighbors thought this seemed like a great idea, and so they too strung lights from their house to hers, and it grew across the whole neighborhood. People were climbing ladders and throwing lights across the street, and soon there was this magical kind of jungle of lights, a web of interdependence, a net that would hold those who are weary, those who are feeling lost, those who are feeling lonesome, especially at the holidays. And that story just touched me so much, and it reminds me that this is what we do, isn't it, in religious community, that we reach across into the darkness so that no one who would seek community be left alone. This evening's offering will be split with the minister's discretionary fund, and this is not so I can go off to Florida. This allows your minister to help those in need, and this Christmas season we have already been able to offer assistance to people in need because of your generosity. So in that spirit, the offering will be gratefully receive to support the mission of this beloved community of faith and also to help those in need. The offering will now be gratefully received.
This is a reading from Luke 2, verses 1 through 20. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, every one to his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in a swaddling clothes, and laid him in the manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into the heaven, the shepherds said to one another, Let us now go unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told them concerning this child. And all that heard it wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen as it was told unto them.
As Margaret Gooding reminds us, some bright star shines somewhere in the heavens each time a child is born. Here at UUCB, we light a candle for each child that was born in the year since last Christmas. This year we have a few children, and I'm so excited to be the one who gets to honor them. On January 19th, 2021, Dan and Kelly Williams welcomed Casey John Williams. The grandparents are Betsy and Glenn Williams. On July 2nd, Jocelise De Silva and Luke Bernier welcomed Lua Cicera. Grandparents are Gretchen and Dexter. On July 14th, Emily and Tim Shalaba welcomed Gabriella Rose Shalaba, two grandparents, Betsy Williams and Glenn Williams. We will now light a candle for each child that was born everywhere.
A reading by Anne Weems. Into the wild and painful cold of the starless winter night came the refugees, slowly making their way to the border. The man, stooped from age or anxiety, hurried his small family through the wind. Bearded and dark, his skin rough and cracked from the cold, his frame looming large in spite of the slumped shoulders. He looked like a man who could take care of whatever came at them through the dark. Unless, of course, there were too many of them. One man he could handle, two even, but a border patrol, they wouldn't stand a chance. His eyes, black and alert, darted from side to side, then over his shoulder, then back again forward. Had they been seen? Had they been heard? Every rustle of the wind, every sigh from the child sent terror through his chest. Was this the way? Even the stars had been unkind, had hidden themselves in the ink of night so that the man could not read their way. Only the wind. Was it enough? Only the wind and his innate sense of direction. What kind of cruel judgment that would be to wander in circles through the night or to safely make their way to the border, only to find the authorities waiting for them. He glanced at the young woman, his bride, no more than a child herself. She nuzzled the newborn, kissing his neck. She looked up, caught his eye, and smiled. Oh, how the homelessness had taken its toll on her. Her eyes were red, her young face was lined, her lovely hair matted from inattention, her clothes stained from milk and baby, her hands chapped from the raw wind of winter. She'd hardly had time to recover from childbirth when word had come that they were hunted, and they fled with only a little bread and the remaining wine and a very small portion of cheese. Suddenly the child began to make noises. The man drew his breath in sharply. The woman quietly put the child to breast. Fear. Long, dread-filled moments. Huddled, the family stood still in the long silence. At last, the man breathed deeply again, reassured that they had not been heard. And into the night continued Mary, Joseph, and the babe. We so often say that what we do is for the children, for those who come after us. And yet, don't we often ignore the voices and the worries and the needs of the very young? In this country alone, one of the richest in the world, if you define wealth in terms of gross domestic product anyway, 1 in 6 children lives in poverty. That's in the United States. The recent child tax credit cut that number in half briefly, but that tax credit will expire at the end of this year, and politicians seem reluctant to extend it further. Worldwide, fully half of the world's poor are children. This is not new. Children have always been the most vulnerable to any ill that might befall a community. By definition, children are vulnerable, and so why not a child to be the symbol for hope and peace? And not just a symbol, but a reminder that to be saved, right? Jesus came down, the story goes, to save us all. To be saved, we must participate in that rescue. If only we cared for each other and ourselves and this earthly home as tenderly as we would care for a baby lying in a manger. If only. So let us engage in this prayer together. Let us imagine the peace that we seek, peace in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in this community of faith, in our world. Let us imagine that peace as a tiny baby crying out for comfort, calling us to work together to care for them, this tiny child, symbol of hope and light and possibility. And then let us set to work in living that dream each hour of each day, not just at Christmas time. In a moment, we will begin passing the light across this sacred space as we sing Silent Night. Congregations around the world are engaging in this same ritual tonight, a song of peace and love accompanying the passing of light from one to another, like that man who strung his Christmas lights across to his neighbor's home. Now, because of COVID, we're not able to use real candles because we would have to blow them out, and you can't blow them out through your mask. So this year we will use battery-operated candles, but we would ask that you indulge us in a bit of make-believe. When the time comes, we ask that you wait until your neighbor passes the light to you to turn your candle on. Can you all do that so that we can have that experience of passing the light to one another while we sing Silent Night or hum Silent Night? We will hum until every candle is lit, and then we will hold a moment of stillness together. So why don't we start the candles over here, and we'll kind of go like this, like kind of an S. May it be so, and now let us hum together our closing hymn, Joy to the World. And let us rise in body or spirit for this closing hum. Our benediction by Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and the princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among brothers, to make music in the heart. Merry Christmas, everyone. our service is ended. May our service in the world continue. Thank you.